Hello and welcome back to Proc Viya, where we will take a look at all the new and enhanced procs inside of SAS Viya 2024.06. There is new deep learning capabilities, something to assess bias, an enhancement to Proc IML, and much more. So let's get started. To give you an overview, we have 5 new procs available to us, and we see 4 procs that have some enhancement to them. So let's get started right away. The first one is Proc Assess Bias. This gives you the ability to assess the bias in your predictive models using statistical metrics and bias measurements to help you evaluate what's going on. The example here draws on a data set from the UC Urban Machine Learning repository and adds that data directly to your CAS session. It then trains a gradient boosting model to then finally make use of the new proc, giving you the corresponding output. So let's skip over the output from Proc Grad Boost, and then under the Assess Bias proc, you get all the different bias metrics to help you understand if your data is biased, and then develop mitigation strategies from there. Next up is Proc DLMZ export, where the DLMZ stands for Deep Learning Model Zoo, which is a framework that encourages you to reuse common models, not develop everything from scratch. And Proc DLMZ export enables you to create an analytical store or a store from that deep learning model you trained. In this case, we are downloading the Fashion Amnest example dataset from the SAS documentation website. And to run this, you have to unzip it. In this example, there is a sysexec command in there to unzip the data for you. But if you are unable, talk to your SAS administrator how you can upload and unzip that data set. Then the data is prepared, we train the new model, and finally we export it to make use of it in a scoring application, for example, to run it through SAS event stream processing or host it as an API endpoint. Next up is the fitted QNet, which helps us to train and score a fitted Q network using reinforcement learning within SAS. Here we download an example dataset from the KDD website, and again we have to unzip that dataset. So if you are unable to do that, please talk to your SAS administrator. We then prepare that data set to make use of it in this new proc, demonstrating how to use it with all the options explained to you. And here we can see the final result. We can see the iteration history, which is quite long because I trained it with a lot of iterations. So let's scroll through all of that output. And then we get our final result. And you can, of course, score additional data now that you have trained a model here. Next, we have Proc Rec Assess, Proc Recommender Assess. And this is a new procedure that helps you to calculate different metrics to assess the quality of your recommender systems. Now, to do this, we grab the SAS users community example dataset from the SAS support website. We then train a small recommendation engine, and we score the result using the Rec Assess proc, and we get the final result to see how good our recommender system actually worked that we trained, or if we have to go back and change something. And the final new proc is Proc Cat transform, enabling you to transform categorical variables using supervised and unsupervised binning algorithms, so tree-based ones, or one-hot encoding, or grouping on rare level events. Here we just reuse the HMEQ dataset as an example, and we work off the default method, which is group rare, but there is also example documentation in there how to enable one-hot tree or weight of evidence based binning methods. And taking a look at the results, we can see how our variables were transformed and how they were binned at the end, and then we can use it to make use of them in subsequent supervised learning algorithms, for example. For the new Procs, in Proc TextMine, we get an additional parsing feature called complex tag. To use this, please note that you cannot turn off the stemming and tagging, so you have to have those enabled for this one. And then taking a look at the output, you can see the part of speech or role that was previously already generated. And then for certain items, we get additional information about their linguistic function within the sentence to help us dig a level deeper beyond just the part of speech that it has. In Proc IML, we get Voronoi, the Voronoi subroutine to compute tessellations for a set of points. And in this example, we also showcase how to visualize this result so you can see the different areas that were drawn and which of your points are in an unbounded area compared to the ones that are inside of it. This can be used, for example, to detect outliers, and it's a very helpful subroutine to make use of. Proc S3 has gotten an update in the region list feature, where now a lot of the values have been updated to the current naming convention by AWS. Note, if one that you want to use is not listed, you can use the add custom regions functionality within Proc S3, of course, but having up-to-date Amazon regions in Proc S3 is very helpful to keep up with the standards. And then finally, in Proc GAMSelect, you can now compute different variables, create new variables or spline effects on the fly during execution by using programming statements. For example, almost all functions available inside of this data step are available here. For a list of things that are not available, check the documentation that is of course also linked in the example above. I hope this overview of all the new cool coding features has inspired you to create something new, to check some new of the capabilities available within SAS Viya, and I will see you next month. Bye bye.